That November day was bitterly cold, and Sam, battling a nasty cold himself, felt utterly miserable. Working outdoors only compounded his discomfort. While he could have taken the easy way out like many others and called in sick, that wasn't his style. Being a dedicated member of his family's company, he always gave his all. Sam had a personal mantra. If something was worth doing, it was worth giving 100%. He rarely called in sick unless he was truly incapacitated, which had only happened twice before when he ended up in the hospital. But on this particular day at 10 o'clock, his body reached its limit. Arturo, his foreman, insisted he go home, warning of the risk of infecting the whole team. So Sam sat in his truck outside his house, puzzled to find his brother's truck in the driveway when Jimmy should have been at work. This was unusual, as Jimmy had no legitimate reason to be there without Sam present. Moreover, Sam was only covering for Jimmy because Jimmy was supposedly at a meeting with a potential client in a nearby town. Entering the house, Sam followed the sounds to his bedroom, where he heard his brother and his wife engaged in activities he never wanted to witness. Fueled by rage and betrayal, Sam decided to confront them, recording the scene on his phone. His anger boiled over as he vowed to confront Jimmy for his deceit. As Sam stormed into the room, he launched a kick at Jimmy, catching him off guard and causing him immense pain. However, Sam quickly realized the consequences of his actions and restrained himself from further retaliation, knowing it could land him in trouble. Meanwhile, Jimmy, realizing he stood no chance against his enraged brother, was gripped with fear. Reflecting on past events, Sam recalled how Jimmy, as the older brother, used to have the upper hand. But as Jimmy moved towards a more desk-bound role, Sam thrived in the outdoor work, gaining power and influence within the company, while Jimmy lost ground. Jimmy always enjoyed teasing Sam about his age, boasting that as the older sibling, he'd always have the upper hand. But that day, Sam decided to challenge his older brother's authority, right in front of Jimmy's wife. They decided to settle it with an arm wrestling match. Jimmy, amused by Sam's defiance, let his cockiness get the better of him. "Time to remind my little brother who's boss," Jimmy smirked at his wife as they sat at the table. "Oh, shoot," Jimmy muttered as he struggled to budge Sam's arm. Despite his efforts, Sam remained unmoved, flashing a smug grin. Jimmy could tell Sam wasn't even trying his hardest. Looking into Sam's eyes, Jimmy realized he was in for a public humiliation, facing all the pent-up resentment and mistreatment he'd subjected his younger brother to over the years. He could see Sam relishing the opportunity for payback. To add insult to injury, Sam even toyed with Jimmy, lowering his hand halfway and checking his watch before casually placing it back on the table. Jimmy felt utterly humiliated when Sam nonchalantly yawned and effortlessly pinned his hand down. From that moment on, Jimmy swore revenge. In truth, Jimmy got what was coming to him. He had bullied Sam his entire life, and such mistreatment couldn't go unpunished. Jimmy's marriage ended in divorce before the next Thanksgiving when his infidelity was exposed by a private investigator hired by his wife. 6 months later, Sam and Camilla tied the knot. Growing up in a family where my father, Jacob, founded a construction company when I was 3, with ownership limited to family members, life was mostly happy. My mother, Evelyn, started as an accountant. I had an older brother, Jimmy, as previously mentioned, and a younger sister, Stephanie, or Steph. For the most part, we were a loving family, but Jimmy tended to bully me, while Steph, being the youngest and a girl, enjoyed favoritism from our parents, which I resented. Though my parents loved me, I often felt overshadowed by my siblings. Jimmy was groomed to inherit the business, and Steph was the golden child. My brother made sure I never forgot my place as the middle child, and my parents unwittingly favored Steph, making me feel like an afterthought. They didn't see the imbalance when they expected me to chauffeur Steph around once I got my driver's license, despite not receiving similar treatment when Jimmy got his. I want to make it clear that I'm not complaining or seeking pity here. These are just the facts. I understood my place in the family dynamic, and I wasn't angry with my parents yet. It was simply the way things were. Everyone had their role, and I was the middle child. I came to accept this gradually. It was clear that my older brother would eventually inherit the business, while my younger sister would be taken care of. I knew I had to find my own path. So, there I was, married for almost a year and a half, discovering my older brother, divorced and cheating, having an affair with my wife in our home, in our bed. I won't delve into the details. Jimmy hastily dressed and fled, followed by Camille, who packed her things and left within 20 minutes. Since the house was mine before we married and we had a prenuptial agreement, It wasn't considered marital property. So, I authorized my lawyer to handle the divorce proceedings, stating my terms, and left town. The final divorce decree arrived 6 months later. It seemed like everything went smoothly, but that was far from the truth. In reality, I didn't go far after leaving the city. I went to confront my parents, presenting them with evidence of Jimmy's infidelity. Their response was dismissive, urging me to get over it. They emphasized Jimmy's future role in the company and urged me to prioritize family harmony. Even my sister sided with them, considering Jimmy's behavior a minor issue on the path to a greater good. If I pushed back, I'd be the one ostracized. They insisted I let it go and be happy for Jimmy and Camilla. To add insult to injury, Camilla moved in with Jimmy that very night, and I was warned not to stir up trouble. It was clear that Jimmy was the favored one, and I felt utterly alone in my struggle. I vowed not to return until I had my revenge. My parents made it crystal clear. Jimmy was the heir apparent, and I needed to accept it without causing further conflict. Even my sister, despite her involvement with Jimmy, urged me to move on and focus on work. When I finally confronted Camille, things took a turn for the worse. It all started about a month after our wedding when she confessed to her affair with Jimmy. Shockingly, she revealed that many times I covered for Jimmy, it was so he could be with her. To compound matters, she dropped the bombshell that she was pregnant, and the baby was Jimmy's. I felt like the innocent sufferer in this mess, but to my dismay, my entire family sided with the perpetrators. I watched as they embraced Jimmy and Camille, disregarding my existence. They showered them with praise and congratulations, completely erasing any acknowledgement of my relationship with my wife. Throughout my divorce, my family barely acknowledged my pain, mentioning it only in passing as it related to Jimmy and Camille's marriage timing. Despite superficial invitations to family events, it was evident I was merely a formality rather than genuinely wanted. As long as I fulfilled my work obligations, that seemed to be all they cared about. The final straw came during a brief Thanksgiving dinner encounter, lasting a mere 3 minutes and 30 seconds, where I was met with hostility before being shown the door. In that moment, I swore 2 things: to sever ties with them completely, and to one day return and exact my revenge for their betrayal. They were supposed to be my family, to love and support me, but they abandoned me when I needed them most. I vowed to return and dismantle their world as they had done to mine. 2 weeks later, frustration boiled over as Jacob demanded to know Samuel's whereabouts. Evelyn, concerned, joined the fray, puzzled by Samuel's absence. Stephanie, stepping in, clarified that the Geraldson project was Jimmy's responsibility, not Samuel's. Furthermore, Samuel had been unreachable for weeks, neglecting his duties despite knowing he needed to cover for Jimmy. Jacob, furious, instructed Stephanie to track down Samuel immediately for a stern rebuke. Stephanie, feeling the weight of the situation, made multiple attempts to reach Samuel, including visiting his home, only to return with troubling news for her father and the rest of the family. "Where the hell is Samuel? I specifically told you he should have been here first thing this morning," Jacob demanded, his frustration evident. "But I didn't see him," replied Jacob's wife, casting a worried glance around the room at their eldest son, Camille, and daughter. Jacob frowned, scanning the room. "Well, he left," his wife stammered. "Left? What do you mean, left?" Jacob's mother interjected. "I mean left. I don't know where, but he's gone. He's not responding to texts or calls. I even went to his house yesterday and found it being prepared for new occupants. It seems he's rented it out," she explained. "Are you trying to tell me that he abandoned his family?" Jacob practically screamed. Stephanie had a restless night after making these discoveries. Unable to sleep, she recalled numerous incidents and remarks from the past few years. Sleep became even more elusive as she realized the undeniable truth, replaying memories of how everyone had treated her brother in vivid detail. "No," she said softly. "I think he knows his family abandoned him." After leaving home, I enlisted in the Army Corps of Engineers. While attending college, I worked part-time for a company until completing my degree in civil engineering, followed by an MBA. The original plan was for Jimmy to lead the family company, with me, part of the executive team. However, my plans evolved over the years. Today, a significant milestone in my new plan was set to unfold. Observing my little sister entering a nearby building, I couldn't help but smile, although it was clear she didn't recognize me. The past decade had brought about significant changes in me. With some spare time on my hands, I reflected on recent years. Joining the Army was a pivotal decision. My education and background were assets, leading to a warm reception. Deployed to a desert environment, I dedicated my free time to rigorous training. including weapons and hand-to-hand combat. 6 months into my service, I attained the rank of captain, contemplating re-enlistment. During a mission, our convoy was struck by an improvised explosive device. Though injured, I sprang into action, aiding a wounded parliament member amid firing. After providing initial medical aid, I defended our position until rescue arrived, despite my own injuries. Eventually, exhaustion overcame me, and I blacked out as rescue helicopters approached. My eyes fluttered open to the sight of emerald pools framed by the visage of an angel with radiant red hair. "I must be in heaven," I murmured. The angel's brows furrowed momentarily before her face lit up. "What makes you think that?" she inquired in a sweet, melodious tone. "Well, I was pretty sure I'd make it through, but apparently I kicked the bucket. Why do you think you're dead?" "I mean, I've never kicked the bucket before, so I can't say for sure. But waking up to an angel sure seems like a clear sign," I replied. Her face transformed into a cheerful grin as laughter bubbled from her. "Sorry to burst your bubble, but I'm no angel. I'm actually a lawyer," she confessed. I couldn't help but smile. "So, I'm just in a different place, but as long as I get to keep seeing you here, I'm fine with that." "If it were up to me, you'd see me often. Fortunately, it won't be in hell. You, my brave soldier hero, are very much alive," she assured me. "You're currently in a hospital in Germany. You were treated on the base and then transferred here," she explained. "Since you mentioned you're a lawyer, not a nurse, I'm curious about who you are and why you're here with me. Not that I'm complaining, but I doubt suing the rebels for pain and suffering would work," I quipped. Her laughter rang out again. "I love your sense of humor. No, I'm not here to sue anyone. I'm Rebecca Caulfield. My sister June was the MP you rescued from the Hummer and tended to. Everyone says if it weren't for you, she wouldn't have made it." "How is she doing? Will she be all right?" I inquired anxiously. "She'll be fine. Her leg was saved, but she'll have a slight limp," Rebecca reassured me. And that's how I met Rebecca and her sister. True to her word, Rebecca divided her time between me and her sister during my recovery in Germany. Deciding not to return to the army, I was discharged with honors. Back in the States, Rebecca and I grew closer, eventually starting a relationship. I shared with her my past, including my betrayal by my ex-wife and family, along with my revenge plan. Essentially, I aimed to start my own construction company and compete with my family's business, using my insider knowledge to undercut them. Rebecca, after some thought, proposed a more direct approach: burning them. She laid out her plan, and I couldn't help but be impressed. As it turned out, Rebecca's parents were exceedingly wealthy and held deep affection for me, harboring intense anger toward my own family for their actions. Conveniently, Rebecca's older brother possessed exceptional financial acumen. Leveraging our combined assets, we established a new LLC. Rebecca's father, nearing retirement, assumed the role of company president, while her brother became acting CFO and Rebecca herself acting CEO, ensuring my name stayed off the books. Despite my significant involvement in operations, our initial move was acquiring a struggling construction firm. With my leadership, we swiftly turned it around. Within 6 months, we absorbed another company, and by the final stage, we had acquired 5 more enterprises across the nation. Amidst this, Rebecca and I grew close, eventually beginning a romantic relationship. Now, seated across from my family's business, I awaited the moment to exact my revenge. Over the years, I amassed considerable wealth through investments and our company's success. Additionally, Rebecca and I recently got engaged, further fueling my anticipation. Smirking, I awaited the impending downfall of my former family, unbeknownst to them that certain individuals had been stealthily buying up publicly traded stocks, culminating in a plan set to unfold. Steph's mood was particularly sour, a common occurrence lately. She knew well that most of the company's staff held a disdain for her. Damn them, she thought. As CFO and daughter of the board chairman, she wielded considerable power. Yet if push came to shove, her older brother, the CEO, would intervene. Being a family-run enterprise, anyone who crossed her path would soon find themselves jobless. However, her current distress stemmed from an unexpected board meeting, a rarity considering their quarterly schedule. Typically, decisions were made between her parents, brother, and herself, with board meetings merely formalities. With the family collectively holding 60% of the shares, each member possessing a 12% stake, their dominance was unquestioned. A brief explanation was in order. Several years back, the family, minus Sam, who vanished without a trace, opted for a major expansion, going public to raise capital. Despite no formal agreement with Sam, his shares were voted alongside the family's, given his prolonged absence. Steph, pausing before the office door, noticed a vaguely familiar figure across the street, disappearing as a bus passed by. Shaking off the momentary distraction, she entered the building, prepared for the mundane proceedings of the meeting. Despite recent convening and another session not due for another 2 months, the agenda followed its usual routine, with updates across various divisions recounted, leaving Steph distinctly uninterested. There have been no changes since last month. Any new business, however, will be addressed, declared the striking brunette. I noticed a slight limp in her gait, suggesting she might have suffered an injury. It was then Steph realized the board meeting was unusually sparse. Absent were the familiar major shareholders, replaced by a few minor ones, including the brunette petitioner and a newcomer blonde. "I endorse this motion," exclaimed the blonde. Steph couldn't help but wonder what was happening. Their belief that they could pull off such a move seemed delusional. With the family controlling 60% of the votes, it appeared futile. Yet, the two women pressed on, undeterred by the shock of others. The debate was brief but spirited, culminating in the anticipated vote tally. "Ms. Caulfield with 35% of the votes in favor," announced. "Yes, as expected, since she proposed it," replied the blonde. Several more votes were cast against, totaling 1% of shares, resulting in 39% in favor and 1% against. The family, holding 60%, had yet to vote. "Of course, Jimmy, myself, Mom and Dad all voted against. After all, Dad was the chairman," Steph noted. 49% against, 39% in favor. Just as Jimmy moved to bolster our position as Sam's confidant, the door swung open, revealing the tall man spotted earlier. "Yes, Samuel Johnson with 12% of the vote," announced my brother, who had been absent for a decade. In an instant, our family business was wrested away from us and handed over to our estranged brother, whom we had forsaken for our older sibling. From then on, the meeting took a downward spiral. Samuel assumed the chairman role, ousting Jimmy and appointing the blonde as his replacement. I, too, was dismissed as CFO, replaced by a brunette, a scenario none of us could have fathomed. Without contracts, there was no severance pay, just a swift ultimatum. 10 minutes to gather your belongings and vacate the premises. Fortunately, our homes and cars were company assets, providing some reprieve. Sam granted us a week to depart, except for Jimmy and Camilla, who had just 24 hours. Mom, Dad, Jimmy, Camilla, and I sat in disbelief as Sam took charge of the meeting. Though stripped of our authority, we remained significant shareholders, relying on the company's profitability for sustenance. While our personal accounts held little, the company covered our expenses, allowing us to focus on its growth. Our plan was to reinvest profits for future retirement, ensuring comfort in our later years. "Okay," Sam asserted, taking the reins of the meeting. "Any other questions?" "Yes, there's one more matter to address," stated an attractive brunette. "SRJ Enterprise has proposed a buyout. I assume you're acquainted with the terms. In summary, they aim to purchase all available shares, contingent upon acquiring at least 51% ownership. Upon completion, Johnson Construction, Inc. will be dissolved and all assets absorbed by SRJ Enterprise. What about our employees? We have a dedicated team here, and I'm concerned about their livelihoods," Mr. Johnson interjected. "Non-managerial staff will continue as usual, with only the company name on their checks changing. Our clients will still work with familiar faces. Executives will either be terminated or transferred to equivalent roles at SRJ. The chairman, CEO, and CFO have been offered similar positions at SRJ and will resign from their current posts." "And what about shareholders unwilling to sell?" Sam inquired, fixing his gaze on us. "There may be dissenters," the SRJ representative acknowledged. "However, once we reach 51%, the purchase price for remaining shares will be substantially reduced. Given our control, additional shares won't be necessary. Once our strategy is public, the remaining shares' value will plummet, leaving holdouts with diminished investments." "Excellent. Is the representative present?" "Yes. She's waiting in the lobby, eager to commence proceedings. Shall I have security escort her in?" Sam instructed security, and shortly after, an impeccably dressed woman entered. She exuded confidence with striking features and a commanding presence. I couldn't help but wonder why all these attractive women seemed to be involved in seizing our company. And what was Sam's role in all this? His sudden appearance today, after a decade of silence, raised suspicions. His support for removing our family from the business Dad founded was perplexing. What was his motive? So, as I mentioned earlier, we're offering $120 per share for the initial 51%. Afterward, it's $2 per share for any remaining shares. It's simply not worth more to us once we secure majority control. Darn it. I missed the beginning of her statement. I really regretted not paying attention. The drop from $120 per share to $2 per share was disastrous. While I didn't particularly want to sell, refusing would have been catastrophic. Hastily, I rose to my feet and declared my intent to sell. Better to join the line early while I still could. A radiant smile spread across the redhead's face as she turned to me. Certainly, we'd be delighted to buy your shares. You're currently fourth in line, so I'll extend our offer once I conclude the first 3 transactions. My stomach churned as I made an educated guess about the first 3 sellers. Being fourth was almost as bad as being last. I watched as Sam, followed by the blonde and then the brunette, all signed agreements to sell their shares. She had already secured her 51%. All our capital was tied up in the company. In another 5 years, we had planned to sell and cash out, becoming multimillionaires. Now we'd be fortunate to achieve mere wealth. We all had to return home to begin packing up. Security confiscated our office and car keys before allowing us to leave the premises. We arranged with security to return the next day and clear out our offices. The blonde announced that she would revoke our access to the company servers, deactivating our logins within minutes. It wasn't a major concern as our laptops had already been seized. She also warned that our home computers would be confiscated the following day. Furthermore, any attempt to delete or tamper with files would result in severe charges of corporate espionage, fraud, evidence tampering, and theft. Jimmy was notified that his computer had been confiscated immediately after the vote to remove Dad from office. Oh, and we already have a forensic accountant auditing the books, Sam added with a smile. The following evening, everyone convened at their parents' house. Jimmy, Camilla, and their 3 children arrived in a van loaded with everything they could hastily pack with short notice and no alternative options. They would be staying with Jacob and Evelyn until they sorted out their living arrangements for the week. After unloading the truck temporarily into the garage, family members gathered around the table to strategize for the future. All right, we need to decide how to respond. We can't just sit back and accept this. We need to fight back and reclaim what's rightfully ours, Jacob declared. Agreed, Evelyn responded. But what's our plan? How do we fight this? Where do we even begin? We'll reach out to our attorneys and begin legal proceedings. But Dad, we don't have any lawyers. The company's lawyers worked for us, and we no longer control the company. We'll have to hire outside attorneys, and that costs money. Now, I know we all have some savings stashed away, but this is going to be a long legal battle. And right now, I need all the cash I can get to sustain myself until I find another job and get back on my feet, Stephanie explained. Maybe it's about time I paid a visit to my little brother, Jimmy chuckled, flexing his knuckles. Camilla eyed her husband critically, taking in the sight of her tall, muscular, and self-assured ex-husband as he paced around the boardroom. I strongly advise against it, she cautioned. Last time you tried, it didn't end well for you, and now he looks a lot tougher and stronger than before. Jimmy started to respond, then fell silent. Stephanie listened, ready to critique every foolish idea. Amidst the brainstorming, she pondered a notion that hadn't been brought up yet. It was the only thing with even a slim chance of success. It wouldn't fix everything, but it might ease their current predicament. What if we simply went to talk to him? The sudden hush was palpable as all eyes in the room turned towards her, as if she had sprouted a third eye. Perhaps if we approached him, admitted our mistakes, and begged for forgiveness, he might not be so harsh. He may never fully forgive us, but if we humble ourselves and acknowledge our wrongs, perhaps he'll lessen our suffering enough for us to endure without being completely ruined. Chaos erupted. You expect me to grovel before him after he abandoned his family? And now he waltzes back here after 10 years betraying his own blood? Are you insane? I'll never lower myself to that ungrateful brat, Jacob thundered. Seriously, sis? After how he treated us before he ran off? And now, what he's done today? I couldn't do anything but find a way to put him back where he belongs, Jimmy shouted. Even Camilla voiced her disgust at the idea of begging her weak ex-husband. Jimmy's 10 times stronger than Sam. There's no way I'd degrade myself or my husband by begging that weakling, she exclaimed. Dear, her mother interjected with the gentle tone of a concerned parent, I understand your sentiment, but we need to confront this threat to our family's well-being. Now's the time to fight back, not to admit defeat. No, we won't negotiate with our new adversary. We'll find a way to strike back and reclaim what's rightfully ours, she concluded, dismissing Stephanie's idea entirely. The conversation shifted back to discussing strategies for retaliation. Stephanie remained silent as the discussion buzzed around her. She had already resolved what she needed to do for herself. She needed to jump off the train before it derailed. She realized too late the injury their supposedly loving family had inflicted on her older brother. But by then, Sam had vanished, and she never had the chance to apologize for her words and actions. She was a selfish, spoiled child back then. Her revelation came 2 weeks later than it should have. June Caulfield glanced up as the secretary ushered Stephanie Johnson into her office the following morning, taking note of Stephanie's attire: a smart, dark blue pencil skirt, matching jacket, powder-colored blouse, black stockings, and 4-inch heels. It was an overall nice and conservative look. Stephanie's blonde hair was professionally styled, and her makeup was tastefully applied. Despite hearing stories about Stephanie being quite tough, June found her still very attractive. Gesturing for Stephanie to take a seat, June initiated the unexpected meeting. "What brings you here, Miss Johnson? I must admit, your visit this morning is rather surprising." "Yeah, I'm sure my presence here catches a lot of people off guard. I actually came to speak with Samuel today, but I was told he wasn't expected. They suggested you could deliver a message to him." "Possibly, but it depends on the nature of the message. As you can see from recent events, he's not particularly keen on engaging with your family just for the sake of it. I've heard stories about you and your family. To be blunt, I don't hold either of you in high regard after the way you treated him." "So I gather you two are close?" Stephanie inquired, hoping to gather more information about the new figures in this unfolding drama. Perhaps if she could win over this woman and show genuine remorse for her past actions, she might persuade her brother to reconcile. "Yes, we're close, though perhaps not as close as you assume. We're not romantically involved. We're just good friends. He's more like a brother to me than anyone else." "Could you share how you met?" "I could, but frankly, I don't think that's pertinent right now. Maybe another time. Right now, I'm quite occupied preparing for a takeover by a new company." "So what message do you have for Samuel?" This was the moment Stephanie needed to convey to the attractive woman her genuine regret for past transgressions. "Please tell Sam that I need to speak with him urgently. I'm aware of how I behaved in the past, and I'm truly sorry. Unfortunately, I came to this realization about 2 weeks later than I should have. By then, he had already left. While others are figuring out how to handle his actions, I'm distancing myself from it. I simply want the chance to apologize to him face to face. Yes, I hope for his forgiveness, but I won't ask him to exempt me from any consequences we face. I hope he'll consider allowing me some form of relationship with him. I want him to understand that I'm breaking away from the rest of the family because I recognize their wrongdoing, and I want no part in it. I won't even ask for his trust. I just want the chance to reconnect with the brother I foolishly pushed away." Stephanie broke into tears. June regarded the tearful woman with a sigh, drawing on her past experiences with former partners and dismissed employees to distinguish between genuine sorrow and insincere displays. It was clear to her that Stephanie's emotions were authentic. "All right, look, Sam's out of town until Monday. I'll relay your message and see if I can arrange a meeting for you." "Thank you, I appreciate it." "No problem. Hey, how about we grab drinks and dinner tonight? I don't know many people around here, and I'd like to chat with you more and understand your perspective on all this." Stephanie was taken aback by the offer. She found June very attractive and harbored a genuine attraction to women, though she kept this fact hidden from her family, attending events with various men to maintain appearances. Yet, whenever she traveled, she sought connections with women. This meeting also presented an opportunity to delve deeper into June's relationship with her brother and perhaps gather intelligence about the blonde and redhead who had blindsided her family. Not that she intended to use this information against them. Rather, she hoped to gain allies in her quest to rebuild her relationship with Samuel. "So, tell me more about your expectations," June inquired later that evening at the bar where they rendezvoused. "I pretty much laid it all out earlier. All I want is a chance to establish a new and improved relationship with Sam. I know I messed up, and I'm willing to face any consequences. Frankly, I'll welcome any forgiveness he offers. But even if he doesn't, I still want to prove to him that I've changed and am committed to being a better sister. How do I know you're not just using this as a ploy to gather information against him? Honestly, you don't. You have no reason to trust me, just like Sam doesn't. But I genuinely want to understand what happened to him in the past decade. I can see how important he is to you, and I want to know more about you and the other women in his life. If they matter to him, they matter to me. You said you're like a sister to him, so that means you're like family to me too. Maybe you can teach me how to be the sister to Sam that I failed to be in the past." This is quite an interesting proposition. It sounds plausible, so you're obviously an attractive woman, and you seem to be pretty close to Sam. Why aren't you two dating? Steph inquired, finding something about the situation puzzling. June chuckled. Well, there are actually two reasons for that. I'll share because there's really nothing you could use against us. Firstly, Sam is already in a relationship with someone else. They're actually engaged. And secondly, how do I put this? Let's just say that you're much more my type than Sam. Stephanie found this revelation confusing. So, how did you two meet? I'd really like to know. We met in the Army. He rescued me from a wrecked car and saved my life. He was injured too, but not as severely. That's also where I injured my leg. My family was very grateful, and we sort of took him in after hearing his story. Oh, wow, we didn't even know he served in the Army. He just left without saying a word. Yesterday was the first time we heard from him. Yes, I know he did it intentionally, I understand. We really didn't treat him very well. So, you mentioned he's engaged. Yeah, they'll be getting married once he's finished here. Can you tell me who she is? Is it the blonde? No, actually, she's engaged to my older brother. Sam is engaged to my sister. I think it was love at first sight for both of them. When Sam woke up in the hospital in Germany, I just wanted to be there by his side. Well, Becca really jumped in to take care of him and nurse him back to health. She's fiercely protective of him, trust me. You don't want to be on her bad side. She's a tough lawyer, and I've seen the aftermath when she's determined to take down her opponent in court. If it comes to trial, she can tear you apart. I've seen her do it several times. It seems I really need to meet her and make sure I don't get in her way. Well, you've already met her, and sweetheart, you're already on her bad side. Is it the redhead? Yeah, she despises all of you. Winning her over is crucial. They both got hungry and went to a restaurant next door. The conversation continued as both women learned more about each other. June was very cautious with her words, as she didn't want to reveal any information about Sam's plans. Steph did inquire about SRJ Enterprise, but June refused to answer any questions about it. The meal came to an end, and the two women finished the last of their wine. Okay, June, you mentioned that winning over your sister Rebecca is crucial for any chance of a relationship with Sam, Stephanie said, pondering this throughout the latter part of their dinner. Yeah, she's like his gatekeeper, June replied. Well, I've got a foolproof plan for that. Go on. June grinned. So, how do you plan to turn my fierce sister from the depths of hell into the loving sibling you claim to be? It's simple. First, I'll win you over, and then you'll win your sister over for me. Interesting concept. June smiled. And how do you propose to win me over? Oh, I think it'll be rather straightforward. Essentially, my plan involves inviting you over to my place and keeping you entertained all night. Then you'll be sick the next day, so we can continue all day and into the weekend. I'm confident that by Monday morning, when you show up for work, you'll be more than ready to tell your sister what an amazing woman I am, and that you'd like her to welcome your new girlfriend with open arms. I see. So what's to stop me from rebuffing your advances and doubting your sincerity about becoming my girlfriend? Well, two things, actually. First, you've already mentioned that I'm your type, and I believe you're genuinely attracted to me. Secondly, I just confided my biggest secret in you. None of my family or friends know about my preferences. No one even suspects it. This is me revealing my true self and coming out of the closet for you, which should prove how serious I am. And if you have any doubts after this weekend, just observe how my parents and Jimmy disown me when it happens. I've made it clear that I'll stand up to them. This will only escalate the issue and demonstrate my intentions. Wow, sis, what happened to you? You look awful, Rebecca exclaimed when June finally made it into the office on Monday morning. Severe lack of sleep from 3 fantastic days. If you think I look bad, you should see my new girlfriend, June retorted. Wow. Okay, who's this new girlfriend and how did this happen so fast? Rebecca inquired. Tell you what, let me grab some caffeine first, then we need to meet with you and Sam for a chat. How about in Sam's office in 20 minutes, June suggested. Sure thing. Go get your coffee. You look like you need it, Sam chimed in. So, John, what's this I hear about the new girl? Sam asked as June entered his office looking disheveled. Well, I had an unexpected visitor on Thursday while you two were away. It turned into an incredible dinner and then a whole weekend. Seems I've got quite the surprising friend now. Okay, who is it? Becca asked with concern. June let the tension linger for a moment, glancing between her sister and her future brother-in-law. Her name is Stephanie Johnson. She watched their expressions shift from joy to shock. Several minutes passed before either of them spoke. My sister? Sam finally managed. Well, sort of, but I did some digging between when she left my office and when we met later that evening. It seems she had a change of heart right after you left. Actually, she's very remorseful for how she treated you before. But of course, you don't just take her word for it. even if she spent the whole weekend with you, right? Of course not. And just FYI, my name's June, not stupid. June giggled as Sam and Rebecca rolled their eyes at the jest. Seriously, I dug into this. A few longtime employees mentioned how she seemed down right after you left. She was visibly sad and mopey for a few months, even mentioned missing you. Could it have been her allies trying to spin a tale to her advantage? Sam recalled. Doubtful. Remember Kate? Even she mentioned it, Sam reminisced. Okay, but I highly doubt Steph swings that way, Becca interjected. Actually, that's the case. She's fully into that. Trust me. She seemed quite knowledgeable about the ins and outs of female affection. It was one of the things that convinced me she's genuinely trying to mend things by coming out and trying to reconnect with you. She's essentially cutting ties with the rest of the family, June revealed. Sounds a bit self-serving, Becca commented. I think she's just looking out for herself, seeing what's coming. It may sound selfish, but it's not necessarily a bad move either. I suggest hiring her as my assistant to keep tabs on her. It'll also help gauge her sincerity. Worst case scenario, it gives us insight into everyone else, June proposed. Why not? Sam agreed. Obviously, we'll have tracking software on all her devices to see if she tries anything shady. Schedule a meeting with the three of us this afternoon. We'll have your brother set up the software and offer her the job if all checks out. Just make sure you're using your brain upstairs, not downstairs, Becca teased as they wrapped up. Later that day, Sam was taken aback by the venom his sister spat out about their parents, brother, and especially Camilla. She detailed how she had to play nice for the past decade out of necessity, needing to stay in their good graces. She also divulged extensive intel on the family's company affairs, accounts, and plans to regain control. When questioned about her sudden change in carnal orientation, she candidly shared her journey. Steph confirmed she was now fully out and proud, believing it would sever ties with their bigoted family for good. I've been miserable for the past decade. I'm truly sorry I didn't realize sooner, but by the time I did, it was too late. Even if you reject me now, I'm just grateful for the chance to finally apologize for my past behavior, Steph concluded. Fair enough. I accept your apologies. They seem genuine, and I'm willing to give some sort of relationship a shot. But trust is an issue, given your past actions toward me and your family ties. I don't trust you. You've got every incentive to deceive us since I've basically taken everything from you. However, my future SIL seems to think you deserve a chance. Just know we'll be keeping a close eye on you, and any slip-up will have serious consequences. Don't mess it up, Sam warned. So, what's SRJ Enterprise? Steph inquired. I've never heard of it. SRJ stands for Samuel, Rebecca, and June. It's our company, so it didn't really matter what we offered for our own shares. Essentially, we'd just be shuffling money within our own pockets, Sam explained. Should have seen that coming. Stephanie never really left the nest, Becca remarked. June moved in and allowed her girlfriend to live with her, which strengthened their relationship. Stephanie, June's assistant, worked on developing their bond, and Sam and Steph developed a closer sibling-like relationship, facilitated by dating sisters. June's announcement of living with her girlfriend led to her disownment by her family, who were shocked by her partner's identity. Jimmy and Camilla lost their home to Dave and his fiancée, leaving their children as innocent sufferers. Sam chose compassion over revenge, offering Jimmy and Camilla a job instead of leaving them unemployed. Despite initial resistance, they eventually accepted due to impending eviction. However, Sam ensured they didn't get desirable positions by influencing the community against hiring his former family. Jacob and Evelyn's attempt to sue Sam backfired when their lawyers withdrew after encountering a formidable opponent in court, leaving them defeated. Later, Jacob and his wife stormed into the law office seeking answers, only to be informed of their dire situation by two lawyers. "Do you even know who their lawyer is?" questioned one partner. "Of course we do," Jacob responded. "She's the one representing the corporation that bought us out, and apparently she's our disinherited son's fiancée." "Then you really don't understand," the second partner interjected, shaking his head. "This is Rebecca Caulfield. Frankly, your case is weak, with slim chances of success. We hoped they'd settle rather than face a costly court battle. But with Rebecca involved, it's personal. She won't just win, she'll demolish you and anyone associated. We're desperate for work, but not to be annihilated by the most ruthless lawyer out there." With dwindling funds, the couple had to settle for a small one-bedroom apartment on Social Security. Evelyn became an unpaid nanny while Jacob lamented his situation in Missouri. Estranged from their youngest and rarely seeing their eldest due to work, they found themselves isolated in their twilight years. "May I come in, Mr. Johnson?" the store cashier asked, entering Sam's office quietly. "Sure, Camilla, what's on your mind?" he responded, smiling at his ex-wife, now his daughter-in-law. "I was wondering if there's any chance we could transfer Jimmy to a job closer to us. He's been working out of state for months, and we only see each other every 2 weeks. And even then, he's too exhausted to spend time together." "I'm sorry, Camilla, but all the nearby positions are filled. Moving Jimmy would just shift the problem to someone else. It wouldn't be fair," Sam explained. Camilla began to cry. "Please, Mr. Johnson, I know you're upset with us, but I'm desperate. I haven't been with my husband for months. I'll do anything," she pleaded. "Seems like she's eager to reunite with her husband," a voice came over the speakerphone. "Maybe she's not being entirely honest," another voice chimed in. "I don't trust her based on what she said about her family," added a third. Sam had his fiancée, future sister-in-law, and sister on a conference call, anticipating this conversation. "Well, Camilla, it seems your sincerity is in question. Can you be more specific about what you're willing to do?" Sam asked. "Honestly, I'm not keen on having your husband any closer to me than necessary. If there was work in Siberia, I'd send him there. Why would I bring him closer?" Sam continued, explaining Jimmy's exhausting schedule despite his low pay. "Camilla, I'm not sure this is my problem. If things don't work out between you two, you can find another job," Sam replied. "That's not an option. We've tried, but we can't afford to move, and no one will hire us again after what happened," Camilla pleaded for compassion, expressing her frustration at their lack of remorse. Realizing persuasion wouldn't work, Camilla resorted to her last option. "I'll do anything," she offered, secretly hoping for closeness with Sam, whom she found more satisfying than her husband. She'd settled for Jimmy for his future success, but now sought to regain Sam and oust his fiancée, whom she despised. She was slightly worried about the conversation with Sam and his companions, but hoped for a positive outcome. "Okay, Pika, let's hear it through the speaker. How about this, Sam? We've talked about a menage a trois with another woman. I might not reciprocate, but I'm open to seeing if it changes anything," Camilla suggested. June's addition about using another woman as a plaything for a night horrified Camilla even more. Sam agreed to the plan, and June was thrilled. On Monday, Camilla went to work with hope that Sam would honor their agreement. She was relieved when Steph informed her that Jimmy would return for the weekend and start a new job in town the following week. Despite their strained relationship, Camilla feared they might renege on the arrangement. "You despicable idiot! You set me up!" Camille yelled as she stormed into Sam's office on Thursday afternoon, clutching the divorce papers just served to her. Among them were several explicit photos depicting Camille engaging in lovemaking acts with multiple women and one man, carefully blurred faces except her own. "In these photos, he's kicking me out of the apartment and accusing me of being an unfit mother," Camille continued to scream, her tirade lasting another 10 minutes and drawing a sizable crowd, including Rebecca, June, and Stephanie. Despite her outburst, Sam remained seated, his expression calm, with a hint of amusement. He didn't speak until Camille finally quieted down and began sobbing. "Becca, as our company's attorney, what legal options do we have against these serious allegations made by one of our cashiers?" Sam addressed Rebecca. "Well, Mr. Johnson, based on the evidence I've seen, she has no proof implicating you, me, or anyone else at the firm in her promiscuous behavior. My professional opinion is that she's found herself in a compromising situation and is grasping at straws to salvage her reputation and financial standing. I recommend terminating her for cause, citing the creation of a hostile work environment. Our security cameras have captured enough evidence of her false accusations to justify this," Rebecca advised. "Understood. Despite the pain she caused by leaving me for my brother, I had hoped that by assisting them and offering employment when no one else would, we could mend our family's rift. It seemed to work with Stephanie. However, I have no choice but to let you go, Camille. Please contact HR. They'll explain your rights and options. Your final paycheck will be issued upon departure," Sam announced. "But I have nowhere to go. Jimmy kicked me out and got a restraining order against me. Without this job, I won't even be able to rent another place or afford a hotel for the night," Camille lamented. While moving across the country was an option, Camille worried about her lack of references for decent employment and how to account for the gap in her work history. The best she could hope for was a minimum wage job, insufficient to support herself and unlikely to reunite her with her children. Her next option was to live on the streets, begging for spare change to survive, at least allowing her to see her children occasionally under supervised visitation. Jacob and Evelyn spent their remaining years on the brink of poverty, fueled by their hatred and anger, isolating themselves from Sam and making no attempt to contact Camille. Jimmy remained stuck in a low-paying job with limited prospects for advancement. Sam and Rebecca built a loving family, ensuring equality among their children. June and Stephanie found happiness in marriage, as did Stephanie and Sam, who developed a strong sibling bond. Stephanie gave birth to 2 children, using artificial insemination with June's older brother as the donor,